The Deschutes River is born high in the Cascade Mountains of Central Oregon and flows north to the Columbia River. Known to 19th century French trappers as the Riviere Deschutes and to other explorers as the Falls River, the river gains in volume along the way from the many rivers, creeks, and springs that emerge from layers of basalt laid down by ancient volcanic eruptions. The river draws from a vast underground aquifer beneath the Cascades, fed by rain, snow, and melting glaciers that produce water that flows from the ground as cold as 38 degrees.
Starting about 5 million years ago, the Cascades come up. They're young volcanic rock. They're sitting in the path of prevailing winds from the west coming off the ocean, and they're fractured and porous lava. The combinations give us the properties of a large sponge, a large geologic sponge that can capture prodigious quantities of water and then release it slowly. We calculate that just in the Oregon piece alone of the Cascades, there is on order of between 20 and 30 cubic kilometers of water. Now put that into perspective, that's about the same amount of water as you see in a huge lake like Lake Mead, a big reservoir, or Lake Geneva, stored in the rock, not as a big lake, but in the cracks and the fractures of this big sponge is a similar volume of water sitting up somewhere between 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet above sea level.
In 1903, geologist Israel C. Russell conducted the first scientific and geologic observation of the Deschutes River and described it this way.
The river exhibits certain peculiarities and is practically constant throughout the year, and conspicuously clear water is a result of a thick surface sheet of pumiceous dust and lapilli. This mantle of porous debris acts as a filter, and the many copious springs issuing from it are clear and cool.
So the Deschutes is the largest, most constant flowing river in the U.S. And this is all because the source of water for the Deschutes are these large spring systems coming off the eastern slopes of the Cascades. And these springs run year-round and provide both an enormous volume and a very, very stable flow.
In 1843, Captain John C. Fremont and Kit Carson camped west of Bend in what is now Shevlin Park. Traveling south, they encountered the Deschutes River, which Fremont described in his journal.
We ascended along the river, which sometimes presented sheets of foaming cascades, its banks occasionally blackened with masses of scoriated rock. In all our journeying, we had never traveled through a country where the rivers were so abounding in falls. And the name of the stream is singularly characteristic. At every place where we come in the neighborhood of the river is heard the roaring of falls, which the stream goes over one clear pitch, succeeded by a foaming cataract of several hundred yards.
The Deschutes is truly remarkable. The earliest explorers of this country noted that this river seemed to be in summer about the same height as it is in the winter. It's a uniformly flowing river.
It doesn't matter how dry it's been, it doesn't matter how long the summer, how long it's been since it's rained. You can always find yourself sitting next to the Metolius or the Deschutes and looking at a huge volume of water just babbling by.
The river does a lot of work. It produces a lot of power, it irrigates a lot of land, yet it does that work without losing its character. The river is still beautiful. It is clean water.
Our ancestors knew this river very well. Our tribes here, we've been here from time immemorial. We've always been here. This has always been country that we've known. This is areas that we have fished. over the millennia, the Deschutes, and before treaty times. We knew these rivers, we fished these rivers. We would purposely come up for different species in these rivers. And so we knew these areas and would follow the fish and would fish for also the salmon that would go up the Metolius.
When I was a child, my parents would bring us over here for camping trips, and the Deschutes was always wild country. It was adventurous country, and I find it still is. I can go up and down the river and lose myself. It's really almost unchanged character in many places. I can go down to Steelhead Falls and see the same river that the Indians saw 500 years ago. I can go up in the headwaters of the Deschutes and I can see what people saw when they first came exploring into this country. With all the development, so much is unchanged. It's still full of natural beauty, and it still is, in many places, just as it was 1,000 years ago.
While some parts of the river remain unchanged, today many voices agree that a 23-mile section of the Upper Deschutes, just below Wickiup Dam, has suffered greatly and is not the same. The evolution of development along the river has taken its toll. Irrigation demands and land development, excessive sediment buildup in Ben's Mirror Pond, and unnatural low water flows below Wickiup Dam in winter have a profound effect upon the river and the health of fish and other aquatic life within its banks. In late September 2014, extreme low stored water levels in Wickiup, along with warmer air temperatures, resulted in blue-green algae flourishing in the reservoir and being released into the Deschutes. Because of these low water levels, the original river channel was exposed in the upper reaches of Wickiup. Kokanee salmon by the thousands swam upriver, as they do every year, to spawn on gravel bars near clear, cold natural springs that feed the river at Sheep Bridge.
The Deschutes River system and its allocation and operation and the way it runs is dictated by the water rights that have been given out by the state of Oregon for storing water, for irrigating, for the irrigation district's agricultural interest. And those water rights are held very highly as far as protectable and something that people can count on and rely on every year.
The health of the Upper Deschutes River is very important to the irrigators in Central Oregon. We are involved in a very large collective and collaborative effort with other irrigation districts here in Central Oregon to conserve water, and have been doing this for a number of years in the lining of canals. The various ways of monitoring soil moisture are used, as well as we plant crops according to the water that's available for the year. And we have become very efficient with the limited amount of water that we have.
Once water is diverted from the river, 40 to 60% of it never reaches the farms. It leaks into the fractured basalt rock lying beneath the canals. This loss of water has been reversed in some districts by lining and piping the canals.
The Bureau of Reclamation, when it completed the dam at Wickiup Reservoir, it reduced the flows down to a minimum of 20 to 29 CFS in the winter, resulting in virtually a mud riverbank in that area for weeks of the year.
The summertime flows are increased upwards of 2,000 CFS. So we have a range of flows from 20 to 2,000 CFS from Wickiup, when originally it was 700 CFS to about 1,200 CFS. So we have quite a range now.
These summer flows create another problem when the high volume of water erodes the riverbank and causes the uprooting of trees, resulting in log jams like this, photographed during the winter months in the Tethero area near Lapine.
So historically, the Deschutes River was a spring-fed system. It didn't change a lot from season to season, nor from year to year. Under that condition and in this alluvial valley, what was deposited by this river was very fine-grained alluvium.
We're sitting on, well, I wouldn't say the banks, but we're sitting on the bottom of the channel of the Deschutes River. This area where I'm at now, under normal flows, would be completely underwater. And these gravels and rocks that we're looking at would also be underwater. The river ecosystem, like all ecosystems across the planet, is driven by insect production. Insect production is critical to supporting the fisheries that were once present and are still present at much reduced levels.
Under today's altered flow regime, the physical processes that support the ecological processes, both within the river from a fish standpoint, macroinvertebrate standpoint, as well as the adjacent wetlands, the riverine wetlands that support habitat for amphibians, waterfowl, and other wildlife, is affected by these low flows and high flows.
And when we have these low flow periods like this, we're exposing that community and essentially leaving them high and dry. So during the rest of the year, when there is water in this location, that biological community basically has to rebuild each season. And so it's very difficult to support a healthy aquatic community when you've got those extreme fluctuations.
So if you were to come out here in a stable river and turn over a rock, you would see myriads of insect larvae crawling around. Even in the gravel, you'll see midges.
The impact has been a loss of gravel replaced by silt. A lot of the rich riparian areas that held the aquatic insects have been replaced by mud. And today the river basically is devoid of any aquatic insects to speak of. And we've virtually lost our fishery on the upper Deschutes.
The native salmonid populations that were present in this reach of the Deschutes River were native red band trout, a variety of rainbow, mountain whitefish, and bull trout. Bull trout have been extirpated in this section of the river. They're an extremely cold water dependent species, and flow management changes have resulted in the loss of that species. Red band trout are still hanging on at greatly reduced levels. The variability in flow makes it extremely difficult for them to be able to meet all their life history demands throughout the year. It's very difficult for them to successfully spawn in the springtime. Forage availability is reduced, and then there's limited amount of overwinter habitat during extreme low flow periods in the wintertime.
From a habitat perspective, one of the consequences of low flow is there's very little holding cover, particularly for small fish, during these low flow periods when this kind of structure is exposed and out of the water. And what can happen in a situation like that is the few larger fish in the river in a stretch like this, they essentially have a shooting gallery. It's a fishbowl where the smaller fish don't have places to hide and maintain cover from predators, so they're very vulnerable to predation by larger fish and other predators, aerial predators, whatever it happens to be.
We're standing here on a side channel of the Deschutes River below Lava Island Falls in January. As you can see, the channel is dry. It is dry 6 months out of the year. Starting in April, when water is released from Wickiup Reservoir, it'll be recharged and you'll see water in the channel. In October of 2013, during the ramp down, during the non-irrigation season, these fish were stranded in here. When there's no water, it's very difficult for aquatic life to propagate.
The fish kill at the Lava Island side channel upstream from Bend 2 falls ago, and the fish rescue effort that occurred at the same place last fall are a result of dewatering that occurs in the Deschutes River each fall at the end of the irrigation season. Eventually they'll get down to as low as 50 cubic feet per second. Flows are not quite that low in Lava Island because of some tributaries coming in, but they're still low enough to result in dewatering of that side channel. which does not happen every year, but is a persistent problem probably over the last 60 years.
We're in a wetland that's occupied by Oregon spotted frogs. We're down below Wickiup Reservoir. There's only a handful of Oregon spotted frog sites remaining below Wickiup Dam. This site is spring supported, so the frogs can eke out a living there, meaning they're a highly aquatic species. They spend their entire life cycle in the water. So spring supported wetlands are incredibly important for their survival because they need to be able to get through the winter. And it starts to come out about now, in March. So their breeding season is typically in the Deschutes Basin, it's typically anywhere from March 15th to April 15th. And so they like to be close to their breeding sites. So they come out of hibernation and they will lay their eggs in this wetland.
Some of the wetlands along the Deschutes River are spring fed and some are not. Nevertheless, they're affected by flows in the river. During the winter time when flow levels come down in the main trunk of the river, a lot of these wetlands get cut off and no longer are able to support the ecosystem processes that are very important for sustaining certain populations of amphibian, waterfowl, etc.
At this site, the frogs are overwintering in pretty shallow water. So if the water freezes solid, it decreases their chances for overwintering. In the spring, they are typically coming out and breeding in early April. The water, the flow releases from Wickiup Dam have not yet occurred at that time, so they could be in a situation where the water is very shallow in the wetlands and then the eggs are left to either predation or we call it desiccation when they dry out. We have a lot to learn about this particular location and how it interacts with the river. So there's a lot of research that needs to be done here. But the frog right now is surviving here, although the numbers are not very high. In order to really boost the populations, we need to have year-round water in some of these wetlands.
What really distinguishes this environment is that everyone has come to count, whether it's the people, whether it's the fish, on that water being there. And that water will be there because it's a geological gift in a sense. But of course we have to husband and foster and think about the connections that brings that water there because those connections are not invulnerable.
The vulnerability of a low snow winter was evident in 2015 at Sparks Lake, where water levels were 4 to 5 feet below normal. Further to the south, outflow at Little Lava Lake at the headwaters of the Deschutes was also far below normal.
We can develop more creative water management strategies that will be able to continue to meet those demands placed by human population, but also be more sensitive to the needs of the river, the aquatic environment, and its fish populations.
And this national treasure clearly needs to be reestablished so our children and grandchildren will have an opportunity to see the way I saw it 40 plus years ago.
If the districts can come together and the whole basin work together and share with one another, the water supply and the river flows can be brought back to respectable levels.
But water also is something that connects all of us. Connects you, me, connects our communities. It connects everybody in Central Oregon with the Deschutes River.
There's an opportunity to improve the situation, and the time is right.
Climate change is one cause of glaciers melting in the Cascade Range. Some of them have lost 25 to 40% of their volume in the last 30 years.
We're all aware that the world is getting warmer. And one of the somewhat paradoxical consequences of climate warming in an area that's dominated by these deep groundwater systems, such as the Deschutes, is that at first glance you might think this area should be very safe. It should be buffered because look at these springs, they'll just keep going regardless of whether water comes down as rain or comes down as snow. But it turns out that these spring-fed systems are actually rather vulnerable to a change in the timing of when water comes out of the sky. Water that falls out of the sky as rain instead of snow, because it's getting warmer, displaces other water that's already in the system because of the pressure effect. The implication of that is that in deep, slow groundwater systems like we see in the Deschutes and the Metolius, the potential is that down the road there will be less water coming out during the summer, during the late summer when this region really needs the water, simply because of the longer time since that water went into the ground in the winter.
Restoration efforts have begun in the upper Deschutes River, but much work remains to be done. And today, federal and state agencies, along with Central Oregon conservation groups and irrigation districts, are all part of the Basin Study Work Group, working to return sustainable stream flows to the Deschutes River and to mitigate the damage man has brought to this magnificent, wild and scenic river.